If you take a look inside the home of every American, you'll find that more than 70% own a pet. Many people have a cat or dog, but some have fish, birds, or other small companions. To most, it's no shock that we're a nation of pet lovers. During the pandemic especially, this base only grew larger as more people were stuck at home and longed for a companion. Experts estimate that over the last 20 months, 15 to 25% of households became first-time pet owners or added another animal to the mix.
No country in the world overall is more deeply invested in pets, whether it's ownership or money spent or time spent, than the U.S. Canada's close, very similar. The U.K. or Great Britain, very similar.
That's Mark Cushing, the founder and CEO of Animal Policy Group and the author of Pet Nation, the inside story of how companion animals are transforming our homes, culture, and economy. He says that in the U.S., dogs and cats dominate these roles.
Dogs and cats in the U.S. are about the same numbers. That may surprise people, but dogs are the public face of pet ownership in what I call Pet Nation for obvious reasons. You know, cats don't roam free and always make it back home. So there are countries that value the cat more. There's countries that value birds more. South America, my brother's wife's from Nicaragua. People were, and Argentina is another good example. They're as likely to have a parrot or an exotic tropical bird as they were a dog or a cat.
The modern pet industry that caters towards these animals is not just about organic food or premium toys anymore. There's a whole niche dedicated to every aspect of ownership, from pet supplements to specialized daycare, fitness plans, and more. In 2020, the U.S. pet industry had its biggest year yet, surpassing $100 billion in total sales, according to a report by the Animal Pet Products Association.
Millennials want advice, and they'll pay for it any way they can get it that allow them to manage their life with their pet. And they don't want to hand it off to somebody. They want to be in the middle of that, in the center of that. And that model has been great for industry, and you are seeing new professions. Dog walkers in New York can make up to $200,000 a year in Manhattan.
For a lot of people today, pets are more than just animals. They're family members. Many owners are willing to devote extra funds toward their pets and will go the extra mile to keep them happy and healthy. Cushing highlights that millennials and Gen Zs together own 60% of America's pets right now. With more millennials having kids later in life, the mentality is often that, in the meantime, it doesn't hurt to get a pet. You may hear the word millennials and still think of young adults, but the age range for this group is actually between 25 and 40 years old. Gen Zs, the generation after millennials, are 11 to 24 years old. For Dan Rubenstein, the CEO of Pups Pet Club, a full-service dog care chain in Chicago, millennials are the core customer base of his business.
After spanning 20-plus years in this industry, I've seen, all different generations come through the doors of my businesses, and I can tell you millennials are some of the favorite people for me to deal with. They love their dogs so much. They treat their dogs more like family than any prior generation that I had come into contact with, including my own. So I really do admire and appreciate them. They want the best for them. I think they tend to focus on not necessarily a particular service, but they focus on whatever is going to improve the quality of their dog's life and their life collectively.
Pups Pet Club helps owners with dog training, daycare, health care, and more. While services like professional training and boarding can get expensive, Rubenstein says he sees more owners willing to invest this money in their pet's well-being.
If they thought that their dog is misbehaving, they're really going to focus on training. They're not going to go try to put a Band-Aid on the bad behavior by just sending it to daycare all day or going on vacation and having it stay overnight with us. It just doesn't happen like that. They really tend to focus on the core issues, and I really appreciate that about them. And I do see it more as an investment rather than just an expense.
During the pandemic, Pups Pet Club did see a decline in business in daycare, dog walking, and boarding since people spent more time at home. However, they did experience an uptick in other areas.
We did see a huge increase in demand, specifically in grooming. and training because people were home with their pets, so they wanted them to smell good and behave. So we could accommodate that because those are two services that we provide for our members and have been doing so for a long time.
Another service that Pups Pet Club offers is veterinary care. Currently, across the country, there's a widespread shortage of vets. In fact, many practices simply can't keep up with the rising demand that's coming from new pet owners.
They've sent a message to the pet supply and pet service and medical world as follows. We want the same quality and scale of things for our pets as we have for ourselves. Healthcare, nutritional choices, you name it, accessories. But particularly in the healthcare arena, that's the case. And what we see right now are veterinary clinics woefully understaffed. There aren't enough veterinarians. There aren't enough vet nurses. And you have a surging demand from millennials for care. And they want something that veterinarians weren't trained to do. They want advice. They'll pay for it, but they want guidance on how do I take care of my cat or dog? How do I manage their health care? Because I manage my own health care. So can you tell me how? Well, they just can't get that. And telemedicine's been slow to become popular with veterinarians. It's changing now, but it's been slow. There's been resistance to it.
While telemedicine doesn't work in all scenarios, it's one more tool in the toolbox. Cushing believes that telemedicine will play a big role in the coming years since it's efficient and easily accessible. Through a screen, owners can quickly connect to a vet for general advice and basic care. One other growing sector in pet health care is the use of natural supplements like CBD.
CBD is just one of 118 cannabinoids, but it gets the most attention. And as you would expect, it has followed the legalization of recreational marijuana. So you had pet owners, baby boomers, Gen Xers, that have used marijuana in their lives and found it a stress relief or a pain relief, and they like that more than opioids as a medication. And it's not surprising, and that's really what happened. They began to say, well, if it works for us, and we're going to go on an 8-hour drive, and we know our dog or our cat hates being in the car, and cats particularly, it can be difficult, not every cat, but many can. And what will a veterinarian do? They'll give you gabapentin. So they'll prescribe gabapentin. But a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, and they began to say, well, wait a second. I wonder if the same thing would work for us.
Cushing notes that right now there are no FDA-approved CBD medications for pets, but he's hoping that this will change within the next 5 years.
Veterinarians haven't had the guidance, but they have the anecdotal experience in their own lives, and pet owners want to talk about it.
Looking ahead, as the baby boomer generation ages and more head into retirement, experts predict that the demand for cats and dogs will only grow. For older or immobile owners who might have difficulty running to the pet store every time their new companion needs something, ordering online and getting everything delivered straight to their door is easier than ever through services like Chewy. Traditional brick-and-mortar retailers like Petco and PetSmart are also jumping on the home delivery bandwagon as well. So if you're looking to add a dog or cat to your home sometime soon, make sure it's the right fit for your lifestyle. A new animal is a big commitment, but for most owners, the joy and companionship is worth the journey. Cushing notes that if you're hoping for a specific breed of dog, it could be a lengthy wait.
It's easier for cats. You can still go to shelters. Depending on the breed of cat you want, you can go to a breeder. Dogs, we have a shortage of shelters in the north in particular. There are isolated shelters in the south and the Midwest that aren't this way, but most shelters in the north have fewer dogs to adopt out. They're gone by noon on Friday. You've seen the supply of dogs be reduced. It's being met from foreign dogs, but those dogs often have no medical records, and that's not necessarily been a good thing. So it's a challenge. People can go online. A lot of millennials, they want to get the dog they want. They've done the research. They've gone to Yelp. They've studied, figured out what dog breed has characteristics that fit our lifestyle. But those dogs are getting much, much more expensive. So I would say if you're interested in getting a dog, don't waste your time. Get going and get moving because it's more challenging and more expensive every day.
If you do choose to go through a dog breeder, do your research to make sure the business is ethically run.
I'm involved in efforts to try to get an agreement on standards that you could certify breeders. It's not easy right now. It's hit and miss for sure. The best thing to do is go see the breeder. If your dog's being delivered to you from 1,500 miles away, you need some evidence of how they raise that dog, I think, the medical records, some video, just the breeders haven't been transparent, and that's their own fault. So people wonder what goes on behind those hedgerows when they hear dogs yelping and wondering what's going on there. And I think demand information and ideally demand access. And there are breeders that will accommodate that. And there could be ones in your area too.
And if you're still on the fence about becoming an owner, Rubenstein recommends fostering a pet first. He fosters dogs himself through a local organization in Chicago.
I feel like I'm just a part of that organization and doing my part, and to find dogs great homes and to give them a great home while they're in that process. They're just so sweet and so loving and so appreciative and so smart. So you just got to give them a chance. And sometimes instead of being cooped up in a shelter or at a rescue, it's better to be in someone's home. So if you can foster a dog, it gives them a better chance of acclimating to someone's home because, then they're used to that environment and they're not going to be as, let's call it, temperamental when they do finally migrate to some new person's home.
There's nothing quite like the unconditional love you have for your pet. Each person's bond with their animal is a special connection to cherish. To find out more about the pet industry, pet adoption, and our guests, Mark Cushing and Dan Rubenstein, visit viewpointsradio.org. You can learn more about Pups Pet Club by going to pupspetclub.com. Also check out Cushing's book, Pet Nation, available online and in bookstores. For more behind the scenes, search Viewpoints Radio on Twitter and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
For those who qualify for Medicare, annual enrollment begins October 15th. Walgreens makes picking a Medicare plan easier. With Walgreens Find Rx coverage, you can explore Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans to find the right coverage for you. Compare plans online, over the phone, or in person at select Walgreens. Plus, find copays as low as $0 on Tier 1 generic drugs when you choose select plans with Walgreens as your preferred pharmacy. With Walgreens Find Rx coverage, Medicare enrollment is easier than ever. Medicare annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Learn more at walgreens.com/Medicare. That's walgreens.com/Medicare.
Shutdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic contributed to the U.S. plasma supply decreasing by more than 20%. The shortage of plasma could impact many people who rely on life-saving plasma-based therapies. Plasma is used to treat patients with serious diseases and conditions like burn injury survivors, people with rare diseases, and people with certain types of cancer. In fact, 125,000 Americans rely on medication made from plasma. These treatments can mean the difference between life and death for people like John G. Boyle, a patient and health advocate who lives with a primary immunodeficiency disease.
As someone who's received over 1,000 plasma infusions in my lifetime, your donation helps people like me live a normal life. That's why we're calling on everyday heroes to step up and donate plasma now.
Visit donatingplasma.org to learn where you can donate at a center near you. That's donatingplasma.org.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows. And find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.
Coming up on Viewpoints.
She's willing to take the risk and put herself out there and get more likes and get more followers.
The evolution of influencer marketing. Then,
many people had never seen destruction or devastation on this scale.
It's been 150 years since the Great Chicago Fire. We'll take a look back at the fire that forever changed Chicago. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.